When spending more than 20, 50, 100 hours in a game, it is reasonable to assume that the player may need some breaks from the main quest, some sort of distraction that is not farming for XP all the time. But how do you take a break from a game within the game? Minigames are a fantastic way for the player to take a detour and relax while still being entertaining, enhancing the games you're in, and the variation of these minigames is greater than what you may initially think. But first things first, roll the intro. Minigames are everywhere in the gaming world. You have them in big open world adventure titles, in smaller linear games, and there are even titles that solely consist of minigames, like Clubhouse 51 worldwide games. At times these minigames are hidden behind game mechanics like lockpicking, and at times they are an important component of the game without being its focus. The examples of minigames in games are endless. You have card games, board games, racing, sports, set activities, let's just say luck-based games, and of course fishing. Tons of fishing. I'm not too sure why, but fishing seems to be one of the most popular minigames you can find in gaming, from games like Cult of the Lamb to Animal Crossing to Yakuza. There's so much fishing in gaming that I even plan to make a whole dedicated video, yet I remember I don't know the first thing about fishing. But nevertheless, there are quite literally all types of side activities for players to experience, and the abundance of choice means that there is something for everybody. But why are minigames a thing to begin with? Sure, it is fun to fish in a game like a side activity, but there are fishing games that have levels of depth greater than the one seen in Pokemon, and this applies to all side activities that could be their own independent video game. In today's video, I will analyze the role minigames have in the gaming world. More specifically, why are they so appealing and beloved by gamers of all genres, and how these minigames are implemented and integrated within the respective games. In other words, how minigames can enhance the gaming experience and make digital worlds feel more real and complete. The importance minigames have from a pure technical point of view is actually not high in modern games. This may not come as a surprise, but virtually all minigames in games are optional, non-essential. Games have minigames could remove them or replace them with something else, and the games that are no longer in could work just fine. However, while strictly optional to implement, minigames do have a precise function within video games, and their implementation is often a net benefit. Minigames are often used by developers either as a way to make a mundane task exciting, or at the very least less repetitive, or as a pure gift to the player, as a reward and sign of appreciation towards us gamers. Example of the former would be Fallout 3's or the first Bioshock's hacking. In both titles, the player gains something by hacking terminals or robots, but such hacking occurs as a minigame rather than a simple skill check. It is strictly personal how much you may or may not enjoy them, but there is no denying that they play a role in shaping the game experience. Examples of the latter would be Pokemon Platinum's and Dragon Quest XI's casinos, special locations unlocked throughout the adventure. While playing the slots is of course optional, unless you believe that just one more round is a reliable source of income to repay your debts, unlocking these locations is part of the main storyline of the games, and the chance to play is itself a reward for completing the quest. In fact, I would argue that all minigames play a role in games, whether they are needed to reach a goal or for their own sake. I have often discussed the importance of rhythm in games. It is important that a game alternates between intense moments, both plot-wise such as plot twist and gameplay-wise such as boss fights, with calmer moments, where the plot is slower and the player is free to roam around. Minigames are an effective tool to give players the freedom to adjust their game speed at their own pace. It is not too important how often the player plays the minigames within the game. As long as the player can distract themselves whenever they wish without feeling the pressure of losing time, then good minigames can be used as an escape route from the main rail the game is in, so there is time to breathe between one big reveal and the other. Even titles that are minigame based like Mario Party have this mixture. When players are on the board, they can play slower, but when at the end of the turn a minigame pops up, the game changes gear to a more frenetic gameplay that rewards players with coins that are later used on the board. That is why Mario Party is the party game of excellence. It combines the fun of quick challenges with the strategy of a good old board game. Minigames are meant to be quick and fun, giving immediate satisfaction in those 5-10 minutes the player plays them. Going back to my beloved fishing minigame as an example, nearly all fishing games control the same. The character casts the baits at sea, waits patiently in a silent environment, and bang! When the sound or visual clue rings, the player needs to perform a quick but precise action in order to fish their own trophy out. The minigame is quick, can be played in less than a minute, and it rewards the player with, well, fish. It does not truly matter what role the fishing minigame plays in the various games it appears in. In some games the player sells the fishes, in some they keep them, and in some others more the player eats them, as long as there is the opportunity for the player to lose themselves in an activity to adjust the pace of the adventure, any justification is great. And minigames not only have the function of distracting the player between quests, but they can also have the effect of enhancing the world building, by giving meaning to what would be inaccessible buildings. In games like Yakuza, the world is filled with minigames to play that make the world feel alive. There is no reason nor gain to playing pool in a bar downtown Kamurocho, but the sole fact that it is possible for the player to do that makes bars in Yakuza that extra bit important. As players, we always complain about the fact that some open worlds are filled with empty buildings where the player cannot enter, or if they can, there is nothing to do in them. An effective way to solve this problem is, you guessed it, inserting minigames inside them. You see an arcade place, you can go inside and play in an arcade cabinet. You see a casino, you can go inside and try your luck. You see a lake, take out your fishing rod and start fishing. It is imperative that places within game worlds feel a purpose, and minigames are a good excuse to do just that. Could be a salon, could be a club, could be a bowling alley, could be anywhere in the world. The more buildings that have a purpose in the world, the better. When roaming the streets of a digital city, the player shouldn't be observing very nicely made scale models, but buildings with a reason, worth visiting, even just once. Of course, do not make the mistake of thinking that minigames can fix bad games. Managing all the recruits in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was a cool side activity, one that gave meaning to the title of the game, but I still believe AC Brotherhood to be one of the weakest titles of the series. On rare occasions, a bad mandatory minigame could worsen the game experience, but to be honest, I don't have any personal examples of this being the case. At most, there are some minigames I've tried and never played again, but none that come to mind that were truly awful. On the contrary, examples of awesome minigames are plentiful. There are some like Super Mario 3D World's Captain Toad that were so great that a whole game was developed based on that minigame's concept. Captain Toad itself became a recurring character in the Mario universe. This is a rare occurrence, but the sole fact that it happens proves how much potential minigames can have on their own, even quote-unquote outshining the games they're in. The last reason I would like to share on why minigames are important in the gaming world is their ability to keep players playing games on the long run. Longer games unfortunately have a great defect hard to contrast, to be fun to play even after 15 plus hours. Now, minigames cannot single-handedly fix this issue, but allowing the player to distract themselves with a fun activity rather than to grind for experience fighting the same 3 monsters is a partial remedy to the problem. Again, I wish to highlight this point. Minigames will not and cannot fix a broken game, but because they can enhance good ones, improve them in a subtle but noticeable way, they are worth it. They are important in the gaming world, and their appearance in games is often more than welcome. Minigames are not just fun to play, but add meaning to the gaming world, add complexity in a fun and exciting way. I started this discussion by claiming that minigames were optional in various games, and that's still true, but just because they are optional, it does not mean that they are useless. In fact, I strongly believe minigames are more important than what you may initially think. I always appreciate when developers insert minigames in their titles. They might be a small part for most games, but they can make the difference if well developed and well implemented. In the worst case scenario, if they are badly made, the player can ignore them, but in the best scenario, when the minigames are actually fun to play, they increase the player's affection towards that title. We might take for granted the presence of minigames, but behind even the simplest of tasks goes a lot of thought and design. To make something fun and meaningful to play that is both quick and easy to grasp is challenging, yet as explained in my discussion, to enhance the gaming experience, minigames are worth it. They are important for the gaming world. If you made it this far, I wanted to thank you one too many minigames times for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and do let me know what are some of your favorites or least favorite minigames you played. My favorite is definitely Hanafuda Koi Koi, because most of the time I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, yet somehow I always win. Anyhow, I wish you a wonderful day, and until next time, arrivederci.